Welcome back to the third part of our class 9 civics, chapter number 4, electoral politics. What makes elections in India democratic? We get to read a lot about unfair practices in elections. Newspapers and television reports often refer to such allegations, and most of these reports are about like the false names, inclusion of the false names, exclusion of the genuine names, misuse of the government facilities and officials by the ruling party, excessive use of money by the rich candidates and the big parties, and even though the intimidation of the voters and rigging on the polling booths or the polling days. So, to solve such problems, some of the steps have been taken to make elections in India more democratic. Here, we will justify this process with the help of these three headings. As we have Independent Election Commission to make our elections more democratic. The popular participation by the people in the election proves that the elections in India are more democratic, as well as the acceptance of the election outcome. The result, whatever is declared, that is accepted by every person, it proves, it shows that the elections in India are democratic. So let us continue with the explanation of the first topic, Independent Election Commission. In India, elections are conducted by the Election Commission. The Chief Election Commissioner, that is CEC, is appointed by the President of India. Election Commission is independent and has a wide range of powers, which are: Election Commission takes decisions on every aspect of conduct and control of elections from the announcement of elections to the declaration of results. It implements the code of conduct and punishes any candidate or party that violates it. During the election period, the Election Commission can order the government to follow some guidelines to prevent the use and misuse of governmental power, to enhance its chances to win elections, or to transfer some government officials. When on election duty, government officers work under the control of Election Commission and not the control of government. The second justification comes the popular participation. The quality of the election process can also be checked by seeing the participation of the people. People's participation in the election is measured by voter turnout figure. Turnout figure indicates the percent of eligible voters who actually cast their vote. In India, the poor, illiterate, and underprivileged people vote in large proportion as compared to the rich and privileged sections. The third category of the participation is of the common people in India. They feel that through elections they can bring pressure on the political parties to adopt policies and programs favorable to them. The fourth aspect, the interest of the voters in election related activities has been increasing over the years. So the popular participation taken by the Indian people proves that the elections in India are democratic. The third aspect comes acceptance of election outcome. One final test of the fair and free election is the outcome of the election. The ruling parties routinely lose elections in India both at the national and state level. In the US, an incumbent or the sitting elected representative rarely loses an election. In India, about half of the sitting MPs and MLAs lose elections. Candidates who are known to have spent a lot of money on buying votes and those with known criminal connections often lose elections. Bearing very few disputed elections, the electoral outcomes are usually accepted as the people's verdict by the defeated party. The last topic of this chapter comes the challenges to free and fair election. Although the Indian election have been made democratic, but then too there are many challenges also faced during the time of elections. Elections in India are basically free and fair. Sometimes this may not be true for every constituency. There are many limitations and challenges to Indian election, such as lot of money. Candidates and parties with a lot of money enjoy a big and unfair advantage over the smaller parties. Candidates with criminal connections have been able to push others out of the electoral race and to secure a ticket from major parties. This has become the one of the most genuine or most challenging aspect for making free and fair elections. Many times we have seen that the political parties they distribute their tickets to their relatives from their or the persons of their own families. As nowadays you might be seeing that the many political parties have their family members or their relatives in their parties. So, gaining the ticket for the family member or the relative is very easy in comparison to any new person or new candidate. The next challenge which is faced that is the election offer little choice to ordinary citizens as major parties are quite similar to each other both in policies and practices. There is no choice for the voters to choose any special party because most of the parties or every party give the same type of manifesto. So there is no choice among the voters that to which party they need to prefer and which party they want to ignore. The next challenge is the smaller parties and independent candidates suffer a huge disadvantage compared to the bigger parties. Although we say that the elections in our country are independent, free and fair, but then too there is a lot of chance of the effect of the bigger parties on the smaller parties. The bigger parties, they always enjoy the domination and the power in comparison to the smaller and independent candidates. As the smaller and independent candidates, smaller parties and independent candidates, they face a huge disadvantage and they are always dominated by the bigger parties or they are not privileged by the bigger parties. So here we end up with our chapter Electoral Politics. Hope you all would have understood the chapter thoroughly. Thank you.